What's up, Bucs fans and Pewter people? Bailey Adams from PewterReport.com back with you as we continue our Bucs 50 most memorable games series, which will take us all the way up to week 1 of the 2025 regular season. Of course, that's the Bucs 50th season as an NFL franchise. We're on to week 8 of this series, which we've only got a couple weeks left. We've got 35 games down. By the end of this week, we'll have 40 games down with only 10 to go over the next couple Thursdays. We'll wrap up with games 46 through 50 just days before that season opener at Atlanta. And again, it's just a couple weeks, so we're coming up on it. If you missed last week's video, we covered games 31 through 35 on this list. Those covered 2012 to early 2020. We had one game from early in the 2020 season on there. Of course, that video is right here on Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel. If you want to catch up on that, of course, all of our videos from this series are archived on Pewter Report TV. So if you want to go back and catch up as you're looking forward to Buccaneer football, feel free to do so right here on this channel. This week, of course, we pick back up in 2020. We've got this entire video. Really, we've got one more regular season game from the 2020 season, and then we're all the way on to the playoff run, which culminated with Super Bowl 55. So let's get right into it. Let's get into it with the start of this video. It didn't start so well in this game for the Bucs. This is game 36 on our list on December 20th, 2020. The Bucs in Atlanta playing the Falcons. This was after the Bucs had beaten the Vikings to get to 8-5 after their bye week. Looked like the momentum was going to quickly whittle away, though, in the first half of this game. The Falcons took a 17-0 lead into halftime, and it didn't really feel like the Bucs could get much of anything going. They were down 24-7 halfway through the third, but then Tom Brady did it again. He came back like he has done before against the Falcons. Remember 28-3? Falcons fans sure do. So does Tom Brady fans, so do Patriots fans, and I think by extension, Buccaneer fans, because this felt a little bit like that. 28-3, 24-7, Brady did the Falcons again. 4-yard touchdown pass from Brady to Chris Godwin capped off an 8-play, 75-yard drive that made it 24-14. Then Leonard Fournette scored from 1 yard out to make into 7-play, 76-yard drive, and that made it 24-21 going into the fourth. Ryan Suckup tied the game with a 27-yard field goal early in the fourth, but Younghoe Koo hit a 52-yarder to get the lead right back to the Falcons halfway through the quarter. But then there was the big game-winning play. It was Antonio Brown, signed just a few weeks earlier, getting loose for a 46-yard touchdown catch from Brady with 6:19 left, and from there, the defense closed it out. Really, I say the defense, a lot of it was Devin White. Devin White with a third down sack to force a 3-and-out, and the Bucs had to punt the ball back away themselves, but White had another sack early in that Falcons drive, which would go on to end in a turnover on down. So the Bucs win this one 31-27 after trailing 24-7 halfway through the third quarter. And they get to 9-5. It sets them up for a clinching scenario at Detroit the next week, which, of course, they would go on to do. Again, Devin White in the end of this one was great. But overall, I mean, one of his most productive games as a Buc. 12 tackles, 10 solo, 2 sacks, 4.5 tackles for loss. And, of course, that guy, Tom Brady, he did it again to the Falcons. He was 31 of 45 for 390 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mike Evans led Bucs receivers with 6 catches for 110 yards. And this was the second straight win in what would turn out to be an 8-game winning streak to close the season. Who knows what happens without this comeback? If the Bucs don't come back and win this game, I mean, their playoff hopes were far from a lock halfway through this game. So the fact that they were able to come back and do this and set themselves up for a clinching scenario the next week was a huge deal. Of course, they would go on to win that game. They'd beat the Falcons again in Week 17, and that would set up this next game on our list, January 9th, 2021. The Bucs in the nation's capital, or around the nation's capital, to face the Washington football team. This was the first playoff win for the Bucs since Super Bowl 37. First time back in the playoffs since 2007, the 2007 season, that is. And they went on to win this game again, first time since Super Bowl 37. It was a long, long wait. This was the number 5 seed Buccaneers, of course, at 11-5 on the road because of the NFL's playoff rules, which the Bucs, to be fair, have benefited from at times. Facing a 7-9 Washington football team squad that was the NFC East champions. The Bucs would go up early in this game, 9-0. Again, it was Antonio Brown getting in the end zone early on. And then that was in the first quarter, going up 9-0. Then a 27-yard touchdown pass from Brady to Chris Godwin, and another suck-up field goal made it 18-7 going into halftime. But from there, it was a little scary. It got a little close there with Taylor Heineke coming back and giving the Bucs a bit of a scare, scoring the next 9 points in the third quarter to make it an 18-16 game, and then a 38-yard Ryan suck-up field goal and a 3-yard touchdown from playoff Lenny Leonard Fournette made it 28-16. So you think, all right, it's over with. It's all in the past. But Washington got back in it. They got back within 28-23 with 4:51 left before Suckup hit a 37-yard field goal to make it an 8-point game with 2:49 to go. And then very fittingly, Lavonte David had seen it all in his Buccaneer career. He had been through a lot of losing, but here in his first playoff game, he makes a huge play, getting a third down sack of Heineke to make it 4th and 21. Of course, they wouldn't convert, and the Buccaneers would win the game, beating Washington and advancing to the NFC divisional round. And this was part of what they brought Tom Brady in for, is winning tough games, winning games like this. Games get close, get tight late on in the playoffs, and you've got this guy on your sideline. You're feeling pretty good about your chances to win. And it helps too that, you've got good protection. Remember, Chase Young, after the Washington clinched the playoff spot the previous week, called out Tom Brady, said, "I want Tom. I'm coming after Tom." And there was no such, thing for Chase Young in this game. The rookie being shut down by Donovan Smith for the duration of this game and keeping Tom Brady upright and keeping the Bucs in position to win the game. This was, again, of course, mentioned him earlier, playoff Lenny. It was the birth of playoff Lenny. He ran for 93 yards and a touchdown on 19 carries, and he caught 4 passes for another 39 yards. Mike Evans led the way with 6 catches for 119 yards, and this was only 1 week after an injury scare. Shortly after he got to that 1,000-yard mark in 2020, he had to leave the game. Looked like his status may be in doubt for the Bucs playoff opener, but he made his way back and played really well. Brady was 22 of 40 for 381 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ryan Suckup was 4 of 4 on field goals. And both Lavonte David and Anthony Nelson had sacks. And, of course, Sean Murphy-Bunting had an interception, which would start a bit of a streak for him. Bucs would move on to face the Saints, setting up a potential revenge game in the Superdome, and that's what it was. Here's Sean Murphy-Bunting again, picking off Drew Brees in that game and stiff-arming Michael Thomas. A huge play in that game. But this came after the Bucs lost 34-23 and 38-3 to the Saints in the regular season. But they got a chance at revenge, and ultimately they would get it. They're heading back to the Superdome, facing the 12-4 NFC South champions. But, a back-and-forth game ended up going the Bucs' way. The Saints went up 6-0 early, and they led 6-3 in the second before Sean Murphy-Bunting had this interception of Drew Brees, which set up the Bucs for a 3-yard touchdown pass from Tom Brady to Mike Evans that made it 10-6 in favor of the visitors. A trick play for New Orleans then led to a 56-yard touchdown pass thrown by former Buccaneer Jameis Winston to Traquan Smith, UCF great, making it 13-10 halfway through the second. But just as the first half was ending, Ryan Suckup hit a 37-yard field goal, making it 13-13 at the break. So all deadlocked there. Saints come out of halftime. Traquan Smith catches another touchdown, 16 yards from Brees. That made it 20-13, but that would be the final score of the night for the Saints. They had that 20-13 lead, but the Bucs would then get the momentum all the way back. Later in the third, still, the Saints were, they converted a 3rd and 2 at midfield and looked like they had a chance to go down the field and potentially lock things up a little bit, but it was the rookie safety, Antoine Winfield Jr. After Jared Cook makes this 3rd down catch, Winfield punches the ball out. Devin White recovers and returns it 18 yards to the New Orleans 40, and that fumble would set up the game-tying drive for the Bucs. Brady found playoff Lenny for a 6-yard touchdown on 3rd and 5, making it 20-20 in the game. And then shortly after that, the Bucs forced a punt, and then Tyler Johnson had his signature moment with Tampa Bay. I mean, people might not remember Tyler Johnson, the former Minnesota receiver, for much outside of this crucial play in their Super Bowl run. He makes an acrobatic sideline catch on 3rd and 11, keeping the drive alive. And that would end up giving the Bucs the lead. That drive would. Ryan Suckup hit a 36-yard field goal later in the drive, and it wouldn't have been possible without that catch from Tyler Johnson. So the Super Bowl runs really do require your best players to be your best players, but also they require, some of these guys who are maybe under the radar and the bottom of the roster guys stepping up and becoming cult heroes to an extent. And we'll get on to another one of those in a little bit. But that was a 23-20 lead for the Bucs at that point. And then Devin White picked off Drew Brees on the next possession, which led to a 1-yard touchdown run by Tom Brady, who then went for a high five from this referee right here. Didn't actually get the high five, but I appreciated the laugh in that moment. I appreciated the attempt by Tom Brady. And the Bucs from there would go on and seal it. Mike Edwards put the dagger in as he intercepted Brees for a third time on the next drive. And this would be the game that sent Drew Brees, who had tortured the Bucs for so long, it would send Drew Brees into retirement. Brees went 19 of 34 in the game for 134 yards and a touchdown, but also threw 3 crucial interceptions. And then on the Buccaneers side of things, playoff Lenny ran for 63 yards and 17 carries, caught 5 passes for 44 yards and a touchdown. Devin White had 10 tackles, an interception, and a fumble recovery. And then, of course, Sean Murphy-Bunting had that interception for the second straight week. After the one against Heineke, he has this one on Brees, and it moved the Bucs onto the NFC Championship game in Green Bay. And that one turned into, a very, very memorable one for, thankfully, all the right reasons for the Bucs, but it got dicey from time to time. January 24th, 2021, the Bucs at Lambeau Field against the Packers in the NFC Championship game. This is the top-seeded Packers, of course. They're 13-3 coming into this game. And the Bucs got it going early, and it looked like for a while the Bucs might straight up just dominate this game. They converted 3 third downs on the first drive. The first was a 27-yard completion from Brady to Mike Evans on 3rd and 4. Then on a 3rd and 9, it was a 14-yard completion from Brady to Chris Godwin. And then on a 3rd and 7, later in the drive, Brady hit Mike Evans for a 15-yard touchdown to give the Bucs an early lead. Of course, the Packers would come right back. Eventually, Aaron Rodgers finding Marquez Valdez-Scantling for a 50-yard touchdown early in the second quarter, making it 7-7. And then a key third down, this catch you're seeing right here from Chris Godwin. Later in that quarter, 3rd and 9, it's a 52-yard bomb from Tom Brady to Chris Godwin. One of the bigger plays of this first half. It sets up a 20-yard touchdown run by Leonard Fournette and gave the Bucs a 14-7 lead. Packers would get within 14-10, and they had the ball late in the first half. But once again, Sean Murphy-Bunting comes up for the third week in a row with an interception, picking off Aaron Rodgers, and that gives the ball back to the Bucs with a chance to kind of add on to their lead a little bit before halftime. 13 seconds left at the Green Bay 45. The Bucs had a 4th and 4, and they opt to go for it. And they convert it with a 6-yard pass from Brady to Leonard Fournette. And even still, Bucs are going to go for it. They're going to go for it all here. After a timeout, the Bucs did go deep, and with that, it was Scotty Miller coming up with a huge, huge touchdown catch. It was, with 1 second left in the half, a 39-yard touchdown catch where he beats King here to give the Bucs a 21-10 lead going into halftime. All the momentum on Tampa Bay's side after the Sean Murphy-Bunting pick. After this play, it felt like maybe an early dagger for Tampa Bay. And then if that wasn't enough, on the next drive, in the opening drive of the third quarter, Jordan Whitehead forced an Aaron Jones fumble and got the ball right back to the Buccaneer offense. And it was Brady throwing an 8-yard touchdown pass to Cameron Brate. That made it 28-10. And again, at this point, Buccaneer fans are celebrating. They're making their plans for a home Super Bowl. It's an 18-point game, but this it wasn't smooth sailing from there. It was the Packers got back within 28-17 on a 75-yard touchdown drive. It ended with an 8-yard touchdown pass from Rodgers to Robert Tonyan. And then things got a little dicey from even dicier as the Bucs, for whatever reason, and Tom Brady, for whatever reason, couldn't stop turning the ball over. It was interception after interception. He threw an interception on the next drive, which led to a 68-yard, 7-minute touchdown drive that got the Packers within 28-23. Then Brady threw another pick. This is the second one on the next drive inside the 30. But a Shaq Barrett sack did help the Bucs, weather the storm a little bit there and get the ball back. Only for Brady to throw the interception again. Third interception in 3 drives in the next possession. But again, Buccaneer defense stepped up and responded. They forced another 3-and-out in the Packers' next drive, thanks partly again to Shaq Barrett, who had a 0-yard sack on that drive. The Bucs finally would get back on the board with a field goal in their next drive and make it 31-23. But the Packers, they gave them again, coming back down there and giving them a scare. They drove down to the 8-yard line, and this was the decision of all decisions. Matt LaFleur opted to kick the field goal on 4th and goal from the 8 and trust his defense against Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, with only 2 minutes to go. Thought his defense could get a stop, betting on his defense to stop Brady and the Bucs offense and get the ball back, only down 5. But that never happened. The Bucs were up 31-26. They got 2 third-down conversions, one by Tyler Johnson. Again, I mentioned him earlier. He draws defensive pass interference to convert 1 third down, and then on a 6-yard end around by Chris Godwin, he slid down, and at the end of his run, the Bucs were set to return home to play in the Super Bowl in their home stadium. It was just, it got scary after being up 28-10, but the Bucs do hold on and win 31-26. Brady threw for 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, found Evans, Miller, and Brate for those scores. And this was a game of both teams converting on third downs repeatedly. The Bucs were 9 of 14 on third down. The Packers were 8 of 14, but the Bucs were the ones to prevail. Shaq Barrett had 3 sacks in the game. JPP had 2. Sean Murphy-Bunting's interception and Whitehead's forced fumble in the third quarter, they proved to be key in this one. It was funny that it was so even after a 28-10 game, but the Bucs did hold on, and they got themselves to the NFC or to the Super Bowl after winning the NFC Championship, getting Brady to his 10th Super Bowl in 21 seasons, and that's where we will go to wrap up this video. Week 8 of this series is Super Bowl 55 in Tampa at Raymond James Stadium. Tom Brady in his first year with the Buccaneers, his first year in the NFC, having his team representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. Even before, this was history. Tampa Bay became the first team to even play for a Lombardi Trophy on their own field, and they went on to become the first to win it on their home field. Early on, it was Rob Gronkowski, another guy. They brought in Brady for this reason. They brought in Gronk for this reason. Moments like this, 8-yard touchdown pass from Brady to Gronk gave the Bucs a 7-3 lead late in the first, and that was a lead the Bucs never relinquished. Gronk would go on to catch another touchdown. It was a 17-yard touchdown from Brady with 6:05 left in the first half to make it 14-3. There's the spike there from Gronk. And then the Chiefs did make it 14-6, but the Bucs had one more late half drive in them to extend that lead. They got a couple of pass interference penalties, and those were huge as the Bucs drove down the field, because eventually there was another newcomer, another addition from the Bucs, midseason addition, Antonio Brown catching a touchdown with 6 seconds left in the first half to make it a 21-6 game for the Buccaneers. Carrying in, after the weekend put on a heck of a show for the halftime show that year, it was on to the second half, and playoff Lenny emerging again with a 27-yard touchdown run to make it 28-9. And from there, you're kind of thinking like, all right, the Bucs have this in the bag, right? Well, Patrick Mahomes on the other side, you're still kind of, you got a reason to worry a little bit, but not on this night. The defense was all over Mahomes all night. They pressured him a Super Bowl record 29 times in this game. And, the offense did enough the rest of the way to kind of keep it going. There was, they go up 31-9 with a field goal. And then, after that was after an Antoine Winfield Jr. interception of Patrick Mahomes. And then with the Chiefs just trying to get in the end zone. They were just trying to get in to get some points on the board late in the game. Devin White picked off Patrick Mahomes at the goal line, sealing the deal. And then we get the peace sign from Antoine Winfield Jr. to Tyreek Hill. Of course, turnabout is fair play, as Hill hit the Bucs with the peace sign in that meeting earlier in the season in Tampa. This time it was the Bucs going, getting their revenge and winning the Super Bowl over the Chiefs. And that 2 right there was a peace out. It was also 2 for, it wasn't, but it can also be this Bucs' second Super Bowl, because that's what this was. Don't know if Antoine meant for that to be part of the message, and I don't think he did, but, it sounds better that way, doesn't it? This was the first time since his high school career that Mahomes' team didn't score a touchdown. It was his first loss by more than 8 points since he became the Chiefs' starting quarterback. So just a historic performance by the Buccaneer defense in this one. And, of course, it was Tom Brady who led the way for the offense and ended up winning another Super Bowl MVP and another Super Bowl. I mean, he was 21 of 29, 201 yards and 3 touchdowns. He extended his own record for Super Bowl victories with his 7th, as well as his own record for Super Bowl MVP awards with his 5th. He also tied Otto Graham for the most championships by a player in the history of professional football, and he joined Peyton Manning as the only quarterbacks to win the Super Bowl with 2 different teams. There's more Brady history. He became the first professional athlete in any of the 4 major American sports, to win a championship with 2 different teams after turning 40 years old, and he was the first player in NFL history to defeat 3 former Super Bowl MVPs in the same postseason. That was being Mahomes, Drew Brees, and Aaron Rodgers. And again, he was the first player in NFL history to win a championship in 3 different decades. Just unbelievable stuff from the GOAT. You know, he had his buddy Gronk along with him. Gronk with 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, 2 tutties. These two celebrating here an iconic moment in Buccaneer history, winning this game on their home field, earning them their 2nd ever Lombardi Trophy. It was a fun one to watch, and it was a fitting end for this season. It meant so much to everyone, especially given the time this was in, and COVID, all that going on. Everybody kind of needing this in Tampa, and they delivered. It was quite the season, quite the game, and the Bucs ending the season on an 8-game winning streak. It was that loss to the Chiefs on November 29th. That was their last loss of the season. And they got the bye week, they had their reset, and they won 8 straight. And then after this, they get to have I think probably the most iconic championship parade. And I'm maybe a little biased here for that, but the boat parade in Tampa, you get this shot of Tom Brady held up by Ryan Griffin after they get off the boat. The trophy toss from Tom Brady, just an iconic day in the team's history and the city's history. And it was capping off a historic and a dream season. You brought Tom Brady in for a reason. You wanted to win a Super Bowl, felt you had a playoff-ready roster, and it was. Tom Brady was the missing piece, as was Gronk, as was playoff Lenny, as was Antonio Brown, and then you got key contributions from guys like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Scotty Miller, and on defense, Shaq Barrett, Devin White, JPP, Antoine Winfield Jr., a big one. Back to the offense, Tristan Wirfs, bringing him in, the first-round pick that year to complete the offensive line, which was a very good one. I mean, that was just a special team for the Bucs, and that's where we will end off fittingly week 8 of this series. After 8 straight wins to end that season, we now end week 8 of our series, and we will move on to week 9 next week. So we're through 40 games. We've got 10 to go over the next 2 weeks. And, of course, we will pick back up with the 2021 season next week, and that should be a lot of fun. Only 10 to go. 10 to go, 2 more videos to go. I want to thank you guys so much for watching and for following along in this whole journey. Be sure to stay tuned to pewterreport.com, Pewter Report TV, and all of our social channels as we continue to bring you the best Buccaneer coverage around all throughout the remainder of the preseason, which is wrapping up this Saturday, and into the regular season, which is only a couple weeks away. Thank you all so much for your support. We're enjoying the start to this 50th season, and I've been enjoying this 50th season content that we've been bringing you, and excited for the season ahead. But that's it for now. We'll see you next time for another edition of the Bucs 50 Most Memorable Games.